Hey and welcome. I'm Dave and you are listening to Life Is Peachy, a music-driven, nostalgia-fueled, immersive audio documentary podcast. Excellent. With each episode always featuring a special guest from the album of discussion. Life Is Peachy allows me to sit here and waffle on about the bands and the albums that became the soundtrack to my life.
Say something for the record. Tell the people what you feel.
Growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s to now, shooting music videos and music documentaries for some of my favorite artists through Life Is Peachy Productions.
Action.
You know, I can eat a peach for hours.
Lips, let's jump into the time machine together. It's time to step into the sideshow. Lips, welcome back to season 4 of the podcast, episode 33. Thank you for your time and energy and joining in on this new metal infused adventure, because this will be today's term of focus, new metal infused. In a day and age where this is now such common practice across recent heavy music, new metal infused, genre-bending soundscape has most definitely played a vital part in the changing of the tides and reframing that associated, dire perspective that once tainted the memory and opinion linked with the nu metal era for so very long. This once unique, omnipresent, and for those there, immensely profound moment in time.
Wow.
Experiencing its glory years from the mid-90s through to the early turn of the century.
There's never enough time.
And following its implosion in the mid-2000s, bands atop of the stockpile were the few to actually survive and carve out a career of longevity, adapting and evolving their sound and image with the times, carried on the wings of their mainstream crossover success and extreme fan loyalty to ride the bumpy road through what I like to coin the Dark Ages.
Oh well, what are you gonna do? Life's a bitch and then you die, right?
Sometimes life's a bitch and then you keep living.
Bands that come to mind include Korn, Linkin Park, Deftones, and Papa Roach, just to name a few. But this journey was not always smooth sailing.
If only we could fly.
So I should of course mention Limp Bizkit within the above, but in my opinion, they really suffered mid-career blues before transitioning into this legacy act status over the last half a decade or so. And to be honest, that's a sentence I never imagined I would be saying. But arguably, Korn also went through similar trajectories along with many, many others. These massive bands at some point still struggled to find their place.
What does that mean? Know me. Know me. Nobody knows anyone else, ever. You will never, ever know me.
Nu metal quickly became a dirty word. Its whispers so quiet, you could hear the zipper of an Adidas tracksuit a mile away.
Quiet.
And so what about the rest of the nu metal bands left in the falling dust? They either endured these harsh post-mid-2000 blues with a fraction of the success and exposure once experienced, eventually calling it a day, or laying somewhat dormant until finally being called upon once more.
Don't you think I ever wanted other things? Don't you think I had dreams and hopes? What about my life? What about me?
And so here we are, in 2024, a time when nu metal is now littered with legacy acts, nostalgia, and wide eyes of appreciation and respect. No one would have ever predicted so many of these bands would one day return to make their lap around the sun, and we would all be partying again like it was 1999.
You trust me?
Of course I trust you.
Close your eyes.
But time definitely has a funny way of reshaping memory and opinion, and by 2009, something was once again stirring the genre pot in a way that allowed people to slowly realize the one ultimate truth.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Nu metal is, and forever will be, king. And, well, everything else was just keeping the throne warm for the day it would eventually return. I've mentioned this many times throughout the episodes of Life Is Peachy. I cite 3 bands as the major players in my introduction into the world of heavy music. Yes, I was growing up with hard rock via my parents and 90s alternative music through the radio and TV, but it was specifically Metallica, Pantera, and Sepultura that turned my introduction to alternative music into an obsession. Nu metal naturally would follow. As with all genres and musicians, nu metal was no different, and many bands often borrowed their heavy metal influence from Pantera, with even Jonathan Davis claiming,
"If there was no Dimebag Darrell, there would be no Korn."
Korn is often credited as pioneering the genre back in the 90s, along with their producer Ross Robinson. But prior to this, bands like Pantera, Helmet, and Faith No More were influential in the development of nu metal, with their groove and alternative vocal styles.
This is it. Everything that you've ever loved has to come through right now. This is all we have. We don't even get to keep our fucking bodies. But this lasts and inspires.
Sepultura adopted groove elements in 1994's KSAD, only for Max Calavera to then fully embrace nu metal and Korn's Indigo Ranch aesthetic, with Sepultura working with the Godfather himself, Mr. Ross Robinson, for Roots 1996. Nu metal became so popular in the late 1990s, largely thanks to bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit, and Slipknot releasing albums that would sell millions of copies. This continuing into the early 2000s with multi-platinum releases from the likes of Papa Roach, Stained, and POD.
Their early work was a little too new wave for my taste. But when Sports came out in '83, I think they really came into their own, commercially and artistically.
This all came to a peak with Linkin Park's diamond-selling debut, Hybrid Theory, which became the best-selling rock album of the 21st century. Let's just let that sink in for a moment.
Take this anymore. Saying everything I said before.
And as with all peaks, there is the imminent crumble, and by the mid-2000s, the oversaturation of bands combined with the underperformance of several high-profile releases led to nu metal's drastic decline, thus leading to the rise of metalcore, post-hardcore, and emo. With many nu metal bands throwing in the towel or abandoning their established sound in favor of other genres.
To be or not to be? Not to be.
It's actually quite crazy how dramatically the scales of favor flipped, and it wouldn't be until the 2010s that the deep seeds of revival were planted thanks to other genres, such as metalcore and deathcore, infusing elements of nu metal into their sound. This even sparked confidence, you could say, for some bands from the 90s and early 2000s to return to their nu metal roots.
Such heroic nonsense.
In 2011, Jonathan Davis would even appear on Suicide Silence's album, The Black Crown, to lay down his iconic voice for the track Witness the Addiction. And so just like all good fashion, it seemed genres too were capable of coming back around to once again become in vogue. Throughout the 2010s, many artists were proudly paying homage to the bands they either grew up with or were exposed to through older siblings or friends. And this rise in respect and homage would only grow over the years, eventually cleaning the once dirty term and presenting it in all its version 2.0 glory.
I can't take it anymore. And I admit it, this isn't temporary. I let myself try, just getting by. I don't want it.
Soon, various genres were throwing a new in front of their place card. Nu metalcore, nu deathcore, even, wait for it, nu metal.
Huh?
There is, of course, a massive roster of bands that could place themselves on this wonderful list, but to name a few that I personally rate based on certain nu metal characteristics such as depraved, angst-driven vocalists crying out nihilistic lyrics, and music laced with mood-driven atmosphere that sparks a sense of cinematics and self-therapy, then I would have to rattle off
Sworn in. Lotus Eater. Loathe.
and Emmure.
Warm apple pie.
Episode 6 of the podcast looks over A Quiet Place to Die with Alpha Wolf's drummer Mitch Fogarty.
Actually, the first heavy song that I ever bought on CD was Here to Stay.
Oh, wow. That's a good one.
And it was $9. Motherfuckers.
Oh, wow.
$9 for a single.
That was your first Korn song?
First proper song I ever heard from them.
Nice, man. That's a good one.
I think I discovered Korn from Queen of the Damned.
Nice. But dude, that opening riff, that dirty guitar sample before it all drops in.
Yeah,
and
fuck
then
yeah.
that riff, it's just so heavy.
Dun, dun.
And heavy in a way that only Korn can do. You know what I mean? Particularly back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, when my brother and I hang out, that's a song that often comes out. It's just ridiculous.
Ugh.
It's so heavy, it's just stupid.
I remember all the shots in the music video of Jonathan Davis smashing his face in the water. And I was just like, this video is hectic. God damn, like this band's fucking sick.
And this was followed by episode 7's exploration of Ocean Grove's new metal infused EP, Black Label, with vocalist Dale Tanner. Two great examples of Australian bands founded in metalcore roots, pulling strength and inspiration from another genre that shaped and defined so many. Right now, Australia has a plethora of amazing bands doing this in their own unique way and absolutely nailing it. Another album I highly recommend on this journey is Northlane's 2009 magnum opus, Alien. I've created a YouTube playlist for all of this. You can find the link for that in the description of this episode. And like I said, the list of bands embracing this sound and influence is now quite limitless, but if we go back to 2009, that was not so common, and if anything, still a potential career suicide. Just as glam rock was replaced by thrash, thrash by grunge, grunge by nu metal, and nu metal by metalcore, this scene too was finding itself oversaturated and running low on steam. By today's standards, Emmure are known as one of, if not the OG band that led the new metal wave of infused heavy music, especially in terms of the signature whammy pedal sound. Their most recent album, 2020's Hindsight, I would argue is on the list of top tier releases associated with this. And although there were glimpses of it in their earlier music, it was 2009's Felony, the band's third album released via Victory Records, that really put their foot in the door and committed to this wholeheartedly for the first time. And just like nu metal back in the day, this was a polarizing moment in time for the band during member change and uncertainty. But it would be guitarist Jesse Ketive and vocalist Frankie Palmeri who would take the sonic reins of the band and embrace what would shape their sound and what they are now so famously known and loved for. So it's with great excitement in his first exclusive post-Emmure interview since leaving the band in 2015 that I welcome Jesse today. Thank you for your time and energy and choosing the Life Is Peachy podcast. It's an honor, man.
All right, how we doing, brother?
Oh man, I am so excited about this, to sit here with you right now and chat all about Felony.
Yeah, how about that? Time just is flying on by. Now here we are.
Yeah, 15 years.
Very exciting, man.
So I'll just jump straight into this. No safety net. When you hear the sentence Felony 15-year anniversary, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess I immediately think of the setting of how he recorded, which we'll get into, of course, the whole thing about that. But I just think of where we were at the time and what we were doing. And I can't believe, the time goes so fast, especially because our first record was 2007, I think, right? 6 or 7.
2007.
So that's only a couple of years before. But, man, that's coming up on 20 years. And I'm just like, man, I really could remember a lot of it like it's yesterday.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, I just think of the whole setting, the whole thing of how it came together. Anytime I think of that album, that was our 3rd record. So that was like, all right, we want to keep this train going. And that was the first one we did without the brothers in the band. So we wrote it completely different. It was just a whole new thing to be like, how is the band going to kind of evolve now? As it always did from the demos before I joined, to me joining, to then putting out the EP, then the first 2 records and the 3rd record. A lot of changes.
A constant evolution.
Yeah, man.
And so you've already touched on a bunch of things I'm really excited to deep dive into. But before we get into Felony, I guess just to set the scene with regards to you as a guitar player, what would you say initially attracted you to joining Emmure?
That's a great question. Now, I was friends with Frank. We went to school together, and I was jamming with my buddies back in New York, and he answered an ad or something in like Craigslist probably, or something free before everything in 2003. And Emmure just started, and he joined the band. He brought the name to the band, and then they did the demos. And then I was working at a gas station, and he would come and hang out, and I would hear it and be like, "This is cool. This has like Deftone vibes. It's pretty aggressive." Not like anything I really heard. I was like, that's pretty cool. I'd love to come jam with you guys just to see what happens. That was really the beginning of it. Just kind of like, let me give you my influence. Because I had a bucket of riffs. I had a bunch of MP3s that I crudely put together and brought to show the brothers. And they were into it, they liked the stuff. And we just kind of vibed immediately. So that was the very beginning, like hearing that Deftone-y aggressive influence. It was already started,
To Cybertron!
So with those creative vibes there and established from the beginning, if we look at the pre-Felony releases and once you were in the band, would you say it was essentially a collaborative writing process, or how did the songwriting within the band generally play out?
Yeah, I mean, it always was. It always was. Not one of us alone can ever take the credit for any of all the records. There was always different moving pieces to the puzzle, and just the way we did it just kind of changed from the very, very beginning. I was like, let's tune the guitars down lower, because I was into Meshuggah and like a lot of death metal, and I kind of brought a different bit, like Pantera, different edge to the band. And I was like, let's tune it down to B from C, at least B, and then
at least
yeah. And then I added, just basically heavy riffs. I would take the songs, which, they were cool with, and cut out some parts that were like, all right, this is kind of just like going, and build it up to make these big breakdowns, and then go back into the song that was already written. So that was the first way we collaborated, was just me adding songs and transitions and cool parts and suggesting some stuff. So when we re-recorded those songs they had already, they had my new riffs in it and some new vibes in it. And that was the first demo. It was like a 3-song demo.
Right.
And then we did the EP and all that. So that's how that all came together in the beginning of the writing. And then we all were in the brothers' basement in Connecticut, and we just kind of put the newer songs on the EP together, the ones we haven't had, like Fist Fight with Dick Tracy, songs like that. They were just not written anything at all yet. We just came together of this newer vibe, because we were playing VFWs and we were playing with a lot of hardcore bands, and we wanted to get people moving. So we were like, all right, let's try to get some 2-step in there. Let's keep it melodic still, but let's get heavy. A lot of breakdowns, a lot of real slow, spacious parts. So I wouldn't say it was effortless, but we just bounced off each other and kind of just kept it going, and it worked out. Really wouldn't change anything for the course of what we've done. There's very few things I hear and I'm like, oh, I wish I did this a little different. But I guess that's any artist or anybody that does anything.
That's definitely the curse of creating, especially with the glasses of retrospect, right?
Yeah, it's never done, but it's got to get done. You got to put it on wax and record it. So, absolutely.
For sure. And I guess one can forever think, I could have done this, maybe I should have done that, but you need to try and keep in mind the time and place and how you felt about it all then and there. Because if you and everyone, was stoked and the stuff was received well by the fans, then that's the retrospect gatekeeper right there. Because times change, tastes evolve, your skill set and application of those said skills also evolves, but that truth is what should remain constant in terms of retrospect.
Yes, yeah, 100%, man.
Keep that camera out of my face.
Yeah, exactly. So we were just super excited for it. And every time we recorded a demo or we were to demo a song, we'd get stoked on listening to it or like show it to a few friends and then get our money together to record at a local studio or whatever it was that just kind of get it going in the beginning. Absolutely, we're stoked on it. And again, I look back and that's just like classic, what made the legend of the band. So again, I really wouldn't change it. Sometimes I hear some riffs and I'm like, all right, we did keep it pretty simple, but there's reasons. Again, Frank might have been like, yo, just let me do my thing with the vocals. It doesn't need to be all confusing. Just keep it very simple. Just repeat that part, repeat the part, repeat the part. And even at the moment, if I was like, I kind of want to do a little something else, it made for the song to make sense. So I can't complain.
Right. And when you're talking about it being somewhat effortless and there's that established chemistry within the original lineup with the brothers, following 2008's The Respect issue and coming into the writing of Felony, did you feel any added pressure as a songwriter based on the departure of Ben and Joe and that changing of band lineup? Yeah, resulting in you remaining as the only original guitarist.
Yeah, there was definitely a little bit of pressure because Ben was really good with arrangements, different than I was, and that was gone. And then it was pretty much like, yo, we're going to start programming drums. So, we're going to start writing songs by making beats and not as organic. And then we ended up writing Felony mostly with my buddy Bryan Goldsman at his studio and at his house. He lived with his parents. So we would go hang out with him and just start putting these songs together. And that's how we kind of put that album together. Before my stepbrother Mike joined the band and recorded that record for us, before Mike Mulholland joined, that was written really with me and Bryan and a drum machine and Frank, of course, as far as the different vibes, kind of piecing it together.
Wow.
Yeah, Bryan definitely helped with arrangements. So there was always a stepping stone. Each album was a little different, So there was always something. And for Felony, that's what we did. It was the first definite big change because it was drum machine. It was with a producer per se. He would definitely produce, helped us write it, or at least like had ideas for arrangement. And Frank, of course, like every record, wrote all the lyrics, wrote the arrangements for the lyrics. And yeah, we were pretty excited about it. I knew it was different. I knew there's some weird stuff on it. It definitely sounded different, but I was stoked. I thought it was going to be really cool, and it got such left and right reviews. But overall, I see a lot of people do like the album. They feel like this is a good moving forward pace for the band, and I agree. Definitely different. That's where started taking a turn. How do we do this? It's different now. Less people and other people. And
I just don't feel like you appreciate any of it.
In terms of being a writing unit and with everything so stripped back during the creation of Felony, did you feel a confidence within yourself holding the songwriting reins, so to speak, and a sense of gratification from that experience?
Make somebody a fine wife someday.
You should see me bake a cake.
At first, it might have been a little scary, I feel like I can do this, but can we do this? Can we put together an album, a cohesive album that makes sense, that's our sound, our style? That's the first time we tuned down to drop A, because the first two records were A sharp. The demos were in C. I joined, we put it to drop E, and then we went to A sharp, so a half step lower for the first two records, and Felony was just drop A. Everybody around us was drop A, like Whitechapel. We wanted it so bad. We tried playing the older songs in A and it just didn't sound good. Just the chords were weird. So we just never did it. But then I was like, all right, we're going to do this. And if we have to change guitars live, we'll change guitars. So we took it to drop A and I felt very comfortable. It felt heavy. I was stoked that I felt like I could take the reins for the guitar stuff and make it happen. Obviously, moving forward, I feel like Speak of the Dead, for me, is my favorite batch of riffs I've ever written by myself, mostly. Mike did a lot of parts on that album, too. But Felony was primarily all just me. With, like I said, the little bit of influence of Bryan helping produce and Frank with ideas of how long to make parts. Let's repeat parts. Let's not. Let's make another type of part here. And Frank is good with really knowing what he wants. He might not be able to explain it or play it like on the guitar, but he could explain the type of vibe we want to do to, you know, make the song a full-on roller coaster where ups and downs, and then start to finish it looks like a good painting per se, I guess. So long story short, to answer your question, yeah, I definitely was excited. I felt good and confident and happy about it. Blessed. Couldn't be mad about it at all.
It's interesting hearing about this evolution of Emmure's sound during the Felony cycle and the injection of new ideas, directions, whatever you want to call it. Fundamentally, in layman's terms, it could be said that was thanks to you. Would that be fair to say? And yeah, I mean, if so, where were you pulling these influences from at that point in time of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that's definitely fair. Always give credit where credit's due, where, you know, there was little pieces on every album, there's a little different that came into it. But me and Frank primarily were the train moving forward, getting it done, getting the deadlines, writing on the computer. I have tons of riffs for all the years, stuff that never made the albums. It's weird. It's like, it's such a wide array of stuff, all the way from like Nile, just like that real dark, heavy vibe, Cannibal Corpse, all the way to Blood Has Been Shed, Kill Switch Engage, always Deftones for a groove, and like a lot of hip hop, man.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Frank and I grew up in Queens, and not to say whatever, you can grow up anywhere and listen to hip hop, right? But that was immersed in us. That was in our culture. We went to public school, and it was very mixed bag of people and vibes, but everything was pretty urban, pretty hip hop, no matter what you were, and that was like the thing. So like I was listening to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg at 11 years old, like when those records came out. My mom bought them for me, like took me to the store because they had parental advisory. So it was always a groove. Like, does it feel good? You know, again, I circle back around to Frank being like, don't worry about how complicated it sounds. Like, we're here to make riffs, rhythms, songs. We're here to compose full-on songs. So it was the perfect storm. You know, he was into a lot of the same music that I listened to. He was into some other stuff like Mr. Bungle and Frankie, like Aphex Twin. He liked some eclectic stuff. He listened to a little more of the hardcore, like classic hardcore stuff, New York hardcore. I listened to a little bit of it, respect it, but I never really went too far down that way. I was more of a metal kid. Fear Factory.
If you're new to the podcast, be sure to check out episode 32 with Fear Factory frontman Milo Silvestro, exploring.
Stuff like that was just super exciting to me. Super tight, super heavy, super distorted guitars, low tune. And of course, like Meshuggah. Meshuggah was always a super big influence. Meshuggah and Blood Has Been Shed. And then, of course, the Acacia Strain came along like towards the beginning, middle of it. And it's so crazy because, I mean, I'm buddies with all of them now. Super cool dudes. I just saw them recently. My old guitar player, Mike, plays in the Acacia Strain. But it's just like when you have a genre of a bunch of bands that sound the same, that's pretty much what happened with us. They were going for the sound, tune it low, hit that brown note, bloody chord is what we called it, and be real groovy, like dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And Blood Has Been Shed, there was A Life Once Lost. There was a few bands that did stuff like that. And then we were like, yo, we really want to have that. And that started coming in, I think, in the first record, doing stuff like that. But yeah, you know, Limp Bizkit, Korn, huge Korn fan my whole life. Awesome. And that's where the whammy idea came from. I was like, yo, there's no other bands doing the whammy. We did do the whammy on the Respect issue, and then Felony was when it really came out to use it, like dumping it.
Yeah, man.
yeah. 1 octave, 2 octaves. And it's just crazy because me and Ben Linetti talked about it, and that's where we started implementing it because we're like, yo, no one's using it. This shit sounds crazy. The way Pantera did it was super sick. I'm very proud of that. Everybody uses a fucking whammy pedal now.
So true.
All right, so we've done 1 octave up on the whammy. We've also done 2 octaves up. Now we're going to do one more with 2 octaves up. This is a little ditty I did a long time ago. And that's a cool little trick because I'm doing a pinch harmonic there and just hitting the whammy. So we're going very spooky sounding.
Start the music.
And that's cool, and that's exciting to me because, dude, Rage Against the Machine. I'm just trying to complete your answer, even though I'm going all over the place. Because, yeah, it's exciting, and there's a lot to it.
Yeah, man, I always mention the main 3 bands roping me into heavy music back in the day, and closely following that trio would have to be Rage Against the Machine, specifically the first 2 albums, and Evil Empire is just straight up one of my all-time favorites.
There's a lot of stuff that really, your classic stuff that was out there that influenced me and Frank, and just everything that we liked came together where we understood each other to like, this is what the band's going to sound like. So creating Felony was that, with that little bit of influence of my buddy Bryan, who we had a band when we were 16 growing up in Queens. We jammed together in his basement all the time, and that's where it started. He was really into Pantera, Testament. We listened to a little Slayer, stuff like that. So he had a little bit of a different vibe, but he knew what we were going for, right? We were listening to a lot of Skrillex. I remember getting that vibe, like a dirty jungle, just noise type of thing. I always tell people, I don't care what the style is. If it's good and it's catchy and it makes me feel good, I'm going to listen to it.
It's science.
We all love Meshuggah. Dude, we used to listen to Meshuggah and just bend our minds out and be like, I'm so smart now from this. I get it. I understand it now.
Awesome.
You can take what you want from it, but that was supreme. All of us as younger friends did stuff like that, and listening to music and just getting this third eye understanding of what we're listening to. I tell people, that really helped me understand how to write a song, how a song should sound A to B, and this is a good song.
Who did this to you?
You did.
We definitely came together on all of our influences, even though they were a little different. So yeah, just influences everywhere, man. It's crazy.
The Emmure melting pot.
Yeah, it's crazy that's what it ended up coming out like. You would never guess, but it's really all over the place, with just the bass line of hip hop with double kick.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
What would you say you learned from your experience out on the road and recording in the studio prior to Felony that impacted your mindset coming into its writing? What statement did you want to make with this album?
And now you're looking down the barrel of a gun. Son of a gun, looks like you're not having fun. Yeah, now you know that this is serious. Yeah, now you know that this is serious.
That we wanted to step it from the EP and first record, more of the hardcore vibes for VFWs to medium-sized venues, and we would vision what would this look like live? What could you see these riffs doing? We listen to the song, are we gonna all jump during this part, and is everybody gonna jump, or is it kind of lame and we think it's cool? What is it gonna look like live?
Your job will be to tell the rest of them that death is coming for them.
That's what we were looking at the Felony. Like, let's go ahead and play 600-800 cap rooms where we would open up tours for like medium-sized bands at the time, and it wasn't huge, but we were stoked, you know what I mean? So it's like, once we started playing medium-sized rooms on that first and the second record, when it was Felony time, it was like, yo, let's make jams that are more legendary, that can be played in bigger rooms, like The Breakdown, Ask a Girl, like that. It's like, it's not even really heavy. It's just such a groove. It's so simple. Yeah. It's very Limp Bizkit, Korn. You switch gears, just hit that. And I was like, that's something where we can all jump. People are going to be excited. The energy's there. We're going fast. We're going fast. Da, 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 da. And you stop, and you just bring it into this beat.
Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit. Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do? Oh shit, what the fuck did I just do?
It was a lot of what is it going to look like live, because a lot of people don't do that, and that's when you'll write something that you think might hit hard live, but it just doesn't have the energy to carry, and I don't want to say boring, but it just doesn't keep it going. People will stand there and they'll be like stoked, or, you know, they like the song, but you don't see any action out of it. So what are these riffs going to look like live?
I tested positive?
I'm sorry.
I only had sex with Telly.
I'm probably the one. I apologize the best I can. I do not understand.
And that's how we also put the set together all the time. Unfortunately, a lot of songs didn't make it because there wouldn't be a lot of live energy, even though people loved a lot of the songs that we never played live. That's what I'm doing on my YouTube now. I just recorded most of the guitars for Sleeping Princess and Devil's Castle. We've never played that song live, ever. We recorded it, and then I'm like sitting here relearning it, you know, today, playing it. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm listening to it and going back and forth. Yeah, so Felony has some bangers on it. On my YouTube channel, I did a few songs from that album. There's like another one or two I might want to do from it.
And just quickly on your YouTube channel, something you only just recently kicked off after being somewhat away from the spotlight for, quite some time. I imagine all of that really started up when you yourself just became ready to revisit that part of your life and you started feeling good about the past and the narrative.
Yeah, man.
7 years back.
I know that we all love to do the bends. We all love to... It's hard to get like a real negative pull without having to bend the neck of the guitar. And one thing I learned to do instead of the... I think it's called a negative bend, where you go over the nut and you kind of... I think it sounds pretty badass. So here's an example of that.
What's so nice about all of that, you know, doing something like the YouTube channel when you're in a good headspace and have that healthy sense of retrospect and nostalgia, is that it allows you to reflect on everything properly and also enjoy it with that positive mindset.
Oh, yeah.
And I really believe that's why fans have gravitated to you and the channel, because we sense that too, you know, it comes through in the playthrough videos and people really resonate with that.
I definitely think so. I've seen people say like, you genuinely look like you're enjoying it.
Exactly.
It is. I'm feeling it. Like when I'm recording the guitars, I'm like remembering all this. I'm like, this is sick. I'm like, okay. Like I'm hearing it again for the first time as a fan, and I'm like, this is good. All right, I like this. And then figuring out, remembering how to play it, playing it, and then it just comes together for me. So then I record it, and then I record myself playing along to what I recorded already. That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. Circling back around, 15 years of Felony, so I'll probably end up doing another song or two from that album. Just got to figure out what's it going to look like and keep the vibe going and give the people what they want.
A lot of write-ups for Felony will mention this one as the first album by Emmure to draw heavily on more of a nu metal influence than previous releases.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this?
I would agree, and I would say only because having Bryan step in to help us write it, it was literally like different bandmates. We didn't have Ben and Joe, and then we had Bryan Goldsman help us with the arrangement, and as we're doing riffs, maybe he'll like, try it this way, try it that way, and would bring in more of that nu metal edge. And again, you know, Frank and I like that stuff, like the bounce, listen to a lot of that nu metal stuff, and vibe it hard, and know those bands got big. Those bands did great and played to huge crowds at festivals, and that was really the beginning of how we could get into that, which fortunately we did. We played a lot of festivals, did a lot of things like that, but I think it did start from that Felony vibe. And I'd have to agree that, yeah, you know, like it definitely brought the nu metal. Again, one way or another, it was people in the beginning hated it, couldn't believe, like, oh, this is so different. It's whack. Where's all two-step? Where's all the super heavy breakdowns? What's this weird song where Frankie sings, you know, in the middle of it? And it's like, sometimes you throw darts at the board and you're like, let's see where this goes. You know, this song might go this direction. And then in the beginning, what we were feeling was the negative part, not the good part. Looking back, in the beginning, we saw a lot of the negative. So that's why Speak of the Dead was, all right, now we're going to tune the guitar to G for a lot of it. We're going to go A, G. We're going to, you know, bring the real heavy stuff back in, the two-step, the slow parts, and that's just what comes with the territory, I guess. Somebody might want to put the song in a movie, or somebody might want to go and put this in a commercial, you know what I mean? And then you kind of go, all right, next record we'll write like 2 songs in that vibe. You always look forward, look back, look forward, look back.
Raiden? It's a new look.
So yeah. I definitely can concur and see the reviews, and we were like, all right, you know, we're still happy with it, but every album was just another path of like, what do we want to try? What do we want to really do here? And as we went on and matured to the record, Felony was like a real good push to go towards, can we tour with Five Finger Death Punch, Korn, Rob Zombie, and which we ended up doing eventually, right? But like, that's where the mindset was like, yeah, it's awesome to tour with Darkest Hour, Bury Your Dead, bands like that. That was cool. Again, playing medium rooms. It wasn't the hugest tours, but it was great times. We made great friends with people. But it was also like we were looking at these other bands playing huge festivals and what they sounded like, what they did. And it was very far and few, like Suicide Silence, Whitechapel at the time, right? And that was it, like for heavy. It was otherwise it was just old school, Madball, Lamb of God, you know, bands like this, not really bands like us. So I feel like that helped push that envelope a little bit, definitely being a little different than the first 2 records.
And it opened up some new doors and opportunities for Emmure. So
yeah.
Long live nu metal.
Absolutely.
This might be 2 years ago, but this pain is my forever. Living was just once good enough. I wanted my revenge. Right across your head. I broke your face and I am dead. You little bitch. We're hard, son. I thought that you were Mr. I don't give a fuck.
The worst part is the way he picks on Marty. He treats him like a dog or a slave or something. Pisses me off so bad I can't stand it.
So what are you gonna do, Lisa?
I'm gonna kill him.
That's some heavy shit.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we did from opening up for Devil Driver. I mean, I have a laminate book. Like, I have a trillion tour laminates. We've opened up for so many other stuff, you know, Pop Evil, Killswitch Engage, God forbid. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And all it did was like slowly pick up more and more fans that people never even heard of us. They go, yo, I like this. And that, again, brings you back to the point of what does it look like live, right? For somebody that's never heard us, for a 40-year-old man that's going to stand there that likes Godsmack, that likes Korn,
exactly.
What are we going to sound like to them? And they're like, okay, they're going to kind of be interested. What are we going to sound like to a 16-year-old that just wants to go and mosh hard? He could still mosh hard, right? Or somebody a little bit, yeah. And so it was like, how can we cover all bases and still enjoy it? It was tricky to stretch ourselves that way, but that's what the experimentation, I guess, of Felony was. Like, let's go real far this way and see what it's going to do.
I love hearing all of this scope with regards to Felony because it just clarifies why, within the back catalogue of Emmure's work, there's no other album like it. It's such an interesting collection of songs, which for me is one of the biggest draw cards because it's a unique listening experience for an Emmure fan. And as you mentioned, it kind of has a bit of everything. And within that, I would say there's some things that perhaps you as a band didn't really revisit as much in the later albums. But that's also what makes Felony so special because it's all out there on that record.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Very valid. There's stuff where we left it alone. That's what we did. It's on wax. Cool. Let's rock on and move forward. And there's stuff that we learned from that album. They're like, yo, let's repeat, let's do parts like that. Whether it's vocally super aggressive or whether it's how we did certain songs or certain melodic things.
Look! It isn't even dented! Oh shit, what are we gonna do now? Looks like I'm digging my grave. Slowly but surely. This loneliness is what's got.
I feel like we did some melodic stuff. Yeah, so it's like the first two records, there's a lot of melodic stuff. Felony was a little more sharp, right? I feel like it didn't have as much melody, more riffs. And again, as you're learning from this conversation, it was just because Ben and Joe, the original root, that's the way they wrote. They wrote these vibey, Deftones style, like the all that type of stuff. And I liked it. I like that type of stuff. That's not how I played. I played like Fear Factory and Meshuggah. You know what I mean? Pantera. That was like what I wanted to do. And I was like,
so are they gonna be done?
Oh, so this makes sense. We'll put it together. So Felony was definitely that first leap of, all right, let's see what we got, you know, from what we've learned from everything we've written up till now and trust in Bryan. And that was it. Us three sitting in a room and just writing that record. So to your point of it being very unique.
It just sounds like this album was a massive leap of faith.
Yeah, we were in. I mean, look, I've seen Joe, I've seen Ben, I've seen them in the past. There's no bad blood. We just couldn't go on and work together for whatever reasons it was. And it was just a mutual thing with like, all right, they're going to leave. We're going to stay. We have to figure it out now. And that was a little scary. That was a little scary for sure. But Frank felt confident that we could continue this. He felt confident in my abilities, which then kind of just like back and forth ping pong. I'm like, okay, that's good. And I feel you could do this and he feels I could do it. So we had some good vibes to get into it. Even if we knew it was going to be a little different sounding. We recorded it with Antoine Lussier from Ion Dissonance. Antoine was awesome. He's really, really good with what he does and has a good ear, and things tweaked a little bit more in the studio from the demos with Bryan. And that was a whole experience on its own, recording that record. The vibe of that was different than just going to Zeus's studio right in Massachusetts, driving 2 hours north, staying there for 3 weeks, and then going home. We went like in Canada, then you got the border, you have Montreal, and then you're 5 hours north in the middle of the woods is the studio where Despised Icon recorded. It's where Iron Dissonance did records. It's where a couple other pretty notable acts have worked there before. And it's just a cabin in the middle of the woods.
So that's definitely a vibe.
Yeah, and it takes, I'd say, about 20 minutes from the little road where the little store is for food. Off road, 5 miles an hour. You have to go real slow because it's so bumpy and bad. Wildlife, little rivers to drive over, and then you finally get out to this cabin. And it's on a little lake. They had 2 little paddle boats. If you wanted to use that to just like go outside, he was like, we've got to be careful. There's bears out here at night. You don't want to go outside at night. So it was definitely interesting for sure, and just staying there.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
I can't remember how long we stayed there. I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks, but it felt like a very long time.
Yeah, a cabin in the middle of nowhere, it would have to be for sure.
The number you dialed is not in service.
Yeah, and the interesting part, Mike, my stepbrother who recorded the album, we basically gave him the demos and it was like, here, listen to this, learn it, come up here and we'll jam it. So a lot of the recording, like the drums, I was in the drum room, almost like orchestrating.
Right, like a conductor.
Exactly. To tell him like this part, like this cymbal over here, I was like, hi-hat, just because he just only heard it for so long and he knew it, but he was like doing things a little different. So we would stop, he'd play, he would punch in and then record and then come into the part. Double bass parts, like we would stop, I would hum it to him, hum it to him, hum it to him. I'd be quiet, they'd roll it, he'd play it, to get through it. Okay, got through the part. It was tough, but it was real. It was really him playing, yeah. But with a lot of the times me in the drum room, showing him what to do with everything. It was crazy. Huge tall room. It's just a cool, huge cabin. It's 2 floors, but it's not on one side. It's just a big drum room. It was good, man.
New drummer, new songwriting dynamic, new producer. Did it ever feel like it was, in essence, a new band or a new form of camaraderie, or at least a new zest of energy and inspiration? Because with an experience like this, I imagine that sense of having to probably prove it to the world all over again with Felony.
Definitely, it definitely did. Good, bad, for all things concerned. It was feeling like new vibes. This is good, or this is a little scary, but we got this. We really just grabbed the horns and we went for it. We got Mike Mulholland, told them the plan, they were with it, and they're very good musicians, and they were about it, and that was it. There was really nothing holding anybody back. It wasn't like, oh, I'm married, I have kids, I have dogs, I have a job. It was like, okay, I'm here, tell me what I got to do. And then they became part immediately, right? Mike's vibe on the drums for what he did, Mike Mulholland's riffs, like there's songs he wrote after that record. It got more comfortable, and like you said, it was like a new zest. It was like, all right. And again, no offense to Ben and Joe, we had to move forward, we had to do what we had to do. We had a record contract to fulfill, so we had to write records and do this. We just wanted to keep it going, and by the time we were recording it and I was hearing the songs, like, yeah, man, like, this is good. We'll be able to cruise on with this and take a deep breath and then just get out there and go on and tour this stuff, even though it's quite an experience and everything's changed around us 100%.
Who disrupts my coronation? Coronation, Starscream? This is bad comedy. Megatron? Is that you? Here's a hint. You're right. I'm the asshole. Never better get attitude is getting but I love this feeling.
What did you think? What did you expect? You thought you really got to know me better, hold your breath.
Bryan even met us up there. Bryan drove to the border, and I think he brought us my mom's chicken cutlets and some spaghetti sauce from the local pizzeria. He literally brought it across the border.
What a legend.
Yeah. Every album, you're going to have a studio situation, a sleeping situation, and this all will make the outcome. The producer, how much they want to be involved, how much they're just like letting you do things that might not be the best for the record, but fortunately everybody we work with has been good. Antoine went to a music school for jazz and he like majored in it. He's got an ear for it. He's ridiculous on the guitar and produced all the Ion albums. And I was like, all right, we lucked out, dude, because he also did our EP. We recorded at that same studio. And that was only just because, again, going out on a limb, meeting him at a small show in Long Island, New York, and I gave him a demo, right? And like, you guys are so sick. I understand. Super sick. Nice to meet you. We would love to record with you one day. And he hit me up. He emailed me. He was like, this is pretty sick, dude. I would work with you. And we're like, all right, let's do it. And then I think we got a couple of bucks together from This City's Burning, Josh out in California, which is now Uprising Records. And we recorded that. And that was the beginning of the relationship with Antoine. We went to Zeus for 2 records, came back to Antoine for Felony. So it was like new stuff, but also like an old homie feeling. Like, all right, we did this before. We worked with him, so we felt pretty comfortable. A lot of feelings going on, I guess.
Obviously, a standout factor with nu metal are the vocals, and Frankie has always embraced a lot of that style and influence, both performance and lyric-wise.
Mad flavor. Heavy flow.
What's the process like for you hearing for the first time in the studio vocals atop of the music you have written? Will you ever find yourself thinking, fuck yes, this is exactly what I was hoping for? Or is there ever a sense of juxtaposition for you with regards to your intentions with what you were writing to how a song then actually ends up?
Both, man, 100%. Great question. There's times where Frank will know what he wants to do in his head, and I don't know what he wants to do, and then he likes what I've done, and I don't know what's going to happen, and then things change. He'll be in the studio and cut parts. He'll cut a part out and move it later, or say, let's not do that, or do that twice as long. And then I'm like, oh, all right, since we're going to do it a second time, now we got to change the drums. Since we're on the hi-hat, let's move it to a crash cymbal, and then I'm going to add a lead guitar part there going under it. So it can evolve in a great way more. Absolutely. So it can go both ways, like you said, where I could see the finish line, but I'm not sure yet because I already know from writing with Frank that things will change. Like his vocal patterns over things will make it even more complete. And most of the time, almost all the time, I was super excited about it. I heard it. I'm like, yeah, this is great. And I don't really have to change too much. Cool. Very rarely when it comes to it and, you know, it's right in your face, things just don't line up. You have to kind of change things a little bit, which is fine. And I understood.
So vain, I bet you think this song is about you, don't you? So much more plagiarism.
But there was like a few times, maybe 1 or 2 parts on Felony, maybe that's it, that I disagreed. And I was like, are you like, I don't know, like I liked it so much before.
So do me a favor, the next time you see her, ask her girl what my dick tastes like.
Because I'm just thinking of the music and he doesn't trust me for the song. And that's one thing he definitely taught me that I didn't know because I'm not a vocalist. I can't write vocals. I can't sing. I never understand what anybody's saying. I can't memorize vocals. I'm just honestly illiterate to that. I'm better now at my older age. But back then, I was very ignorant to it. Not on purpose, but I just knew riffs, beats, and parts and how to make the equation of a song, and he kind of would put the icing on top. And yeah, there was like 2 parts where I don't really know, I don't like that, or are you sure? Like, we just killed that whole transition that I felt like we were building up, and then it happens, and then this, and then that, and then boom, and then it's so heavy, and now it just kind of goes through it.
Right.
And then he's like, trust me, like the vocals are going to be, and then it does. I see people singing along. I hear people over us playing it live, and I'm like, oh shit, that does make sense. And then I just started trusting in it.
That's a cool trust to have.
Yeah, mostly he'll be right about that. I trust the process because he trusted me with the riffs. I could have written bunk riffs. They were like, okay to him, and you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then the band went nowhere, but he thought the stuff I did was good. I felt really good about a lot of it. And then push come to shove, we recorded it, came out, people liked it. We played for a lot of years doing a lot of, the Felony songs still play it live, which is really, really awesome.
I'm really sorry. You're my best friend.
I got to rekindle my relationship with Frank. I saw him last November. We talked, and
nice.
Yeah, so we haven't talked for like 8 years. So we finally talked. It was a really good feeling. We felt good about seeing each other, and I hung out with them, and I'm good friends with Josh Travis, and I met their new drummer, and my good friend Zach plays bass for them. I've known Zach for a while. I've helped him write some stuff, and that all makes sense. I'm like, all right, this is how it should go. And, it's a much easier feeling to wake up stoked. I'm like super stoked for the band. I'm stoked they're going. I'm happy. I hope they play to bigger and bigger crowds, and they write an amazing album and all the great things, where maybe I didn't feel that way when I left the band, just from personal differences. And now looking back 8 years, I'm like, I could see why I acted a certain way and I didn't understand it rubbed you the wrong way. You acted a certain way and just didn't understand how that. And then we were just like that, not creatively, but just being around each other all the time. So it was great to just talk about that. I really haven't gotten to share that. People don't really know. Like, I go to the show and I'm hanging out with them, and it's just really, really cool. Because there was a time where it wasn't like that. I was like pretty unhappy. I was like, I was meant to be doing this. This is what it is. I don't know anything else.
Look, memory can change the shape of a room. It can change the color of a car. And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation. They're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
It took a lot of time. It took a lot of maturity. I know that's kind of off the subject, but that was something that I think was real important moving forward for the band. If they're going to end up doing 20 years of Felony, if they want to do 20 years of Goodbye to the Gallows, I think that's super exciting, and I'm very proud to have been part of that for sure.
Man, I'm really happy to hear that, because as you mentioned, that's a far better place to be in general, but also mentally, to wake up and feel stoked, as you put it. Sometimes time is that healer and can give those eyes of retrospect to heal voids and wounds.
Yeah, no, dude, thank you. All's good on that front. Definitely good vibes, and I wish him well. I saw him again for a second time recently on that Alpha Wolf tour. I never wished ill. I was just unhappy with the situation. I just wish things could have went different, but like you and I said, man, time is crazy. Time healed it all. And 15 years later, we're talking about Felony.
Yeah, it's such a trip. How was it for you later in your career to balance your life in Emmure, life out on the road and all the things that are associated with that, to balance that side of things with what I'll just call your regular day-to-day? How was it for you maintaining your mental health?
It was tough. I mean, I wasn't doing the greatest things. I was focused on just basically things that now I wouldn't be focused on. And that kind of rubbed off in the wrong way. And it seemed like my priorities were all wacky. And these are the things we talked about again when I saw Frank, Facebook posts about 1-800 get me out of here. And I can't wait for the tour to be over. And I just want to go racing with my Mustang. And I could see how this looked like I didn't want to be there, which is one thing he did say at the very end, like, dude, you don't act like you don't want to be here. And I'm like, it isn't really like that. But when we had personal differences and we would always be together on a bus and he would have certain mood swings, that would rub me a certain way, where he would be more of the reserve, kind of just hang out by himself. I would be like all over the place, talking with everybody, bringing people on the bus. always just trying to have a positive outlook on things. And then it took a toll because I was so far positive, and sometimes he, to his agreeance, would be negative in some things where he's changed a bit now for sure, which is great. But being negative, I had to just kind of like suck it up and be like, all right, it's going to be all right. Things are going to be all right. We're doing this. Like the band's doing good. And I just put my physical, mental to the side. The band's going. And then there was a certain point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And that's ultimately where that led, where I was like, now this is more important for me to feel happy and feel sane versus being excited to go home and just sit there by myself for 2 weeks and then go, okay, I need to get out of here. I got to get back on the road. And then things are weird immediately. It just got toxic, man. It did. Smoking all the time and just not doing much. I guess, again, you know, it's all retrospect, hindsight. If I can go back, I would, like, I don't smoke pot in a long time, but I would be doing other things. I mean, I got to go out and see things. I went to the Louvre, you know, look at the Mona Lisa. We went to the catacombs and we saw a lot of cool things, but I was more just like, I just want to hang out and whatever and hang out with these people and let me get these people in the show because they're going to hook me up with something. And I just would be different because I see how that can rub off. And, you know, to Frank, he said things about how he would be different and how he's like, I wouldn't want to tour around myself the way I was either. So we really came to like okay, there it was. That's why it happened.
Yeah.
We just mentally both were just like all over the place. And people don't know about that. You know, you're out there bouncing around, having a good time on stage, doing interviews, but you could just be in a real bad spot. I had some stuff going on with my first ex that was so bad, so toxic, back and forth, so angry. It was hard. It was hard to keep floating. And I really tried to keep floating, and it just drains you so much. So that ultimately led to me just leaving. And then the other guys were like, oh, if you're going to leave, I'm going to leave. Because that was it. Like, it was me and Frank for so long with whatever else happened around it. We went through like 4 or 5 drummers. And it was just like, okay, this is the common denominator, man. I can't do it. Yeah, it took a long time. It took years to just get that, like, I'm okay back. Like, I didn't want to go to shows when I left the band. I just didn't want to do like anything like that. And I was like, nope. Just get away from it. Now I love it. Anytime any shows are in town. Fortunately, I've made a lot of friends in the industry, so I usually don't have to pay to get into any shows at all, which is the greatest thing ever. It's great now, man. Yes. Good shows come around. I get to hang out again and reminisce and feel good about it. So all in all, it was just a big transformation that had to happen from like, this is all I have to do this, I hate this, to now, I really hate this, I'm not doing it anymore, what do I do? To now, my life is set, I got things going on, I got health insurance, all the great things, and I'm happy to go to shows again. All comes full circle.
That's so good, man.
Yeah.
When you were going through those heavier, darker periods of time in life and on the tail end of your time in Emmure, in retrospect, would you say that had an impact on your creative flow and your output, even as a songwriter?
It impacted the music where it wasn't the best we could do, but we did it. And it was more of like, oh, you know, we're signing for 1 record at a time, so we're getting a decent advance. So let's just do a record. That's why I think Speak of the Dead peaked, and then it kind of a little bit came off with Eternal Enemies, just because the vibe, you know, the only way we were able to look at it was like, oh, cool, you know, of course you want to just make a record with your face on it. And then when we were sitting in a room writing, it was just not it wasn't vibing as much, and things were different. Things definitely were different. Not too much, fortunately, but it definitely impacted a bit on the final product of what we ended up writing. I feel like there's still good songs on Eternal Enemies. There's really good songs on every album I feel that we did. There's some songs that are okay. And again, sometimes it can be really tough to write 11, 12, 13 absolute bangers. There's very few records. I say, bury your dead, cover your tracks, front to back. Every song is a banger. And that whole album's a vibe. So for us, we're just kind of all over the place. So it was tough to make a gigantic, every single song's amazing. And that's each and own, right? Whatever opinion somebody has. But yeah, it definitely got a little difficult towards the end when the vibe was just a little ill and we kind of distanced ourselves more. You know, we'd arrive at a venue and Frank would be off for the day doing whatever, or I would go and do my thing. And it was kind of apparent, right, that like that was happening. There was always awkward things happening. Frank making a weird post, me and him butting heads about something. Just something always was a brewing. It sucks. I mean, again, it's good to be able to talk about it. This is something that I was like, you know, never really talked about, never talked to anybody about. It just happened and then disbanded. And now all these years later, I can look back and see how that happened. And I'm just fortunate we got as far as we did and we were able to do what we did leading up to like that abrupt ending.
Yeah, man.
So there's like a lot of elements to it. The first 4 records was like, let's get all 4 records done so we can get a new contract and earn some money. And then we got a 5th contract, and it was weird. It was like, I don't want to say turn and burn, but it kind of felt different. Every album just had a different vibe, and that last album definitely was a little bit more weird. And we recorded it in Michigan in the middle of dead winter, and it was very, very, very cold, to the point where the van, like, you wouldn't even see the needle move off of cold. It was so cold. Very eerie, depressing vibes, and Frank had a different hotel room than me, so just like we would be in the studio. Sometimes he wouldn't go, and then he would show up, and then I wouldn't see him, or then sometimes he'd show up in the room to smoke or whatever, and then it'd be kind of quiet, and then that'll be it. And like, all right, man, I'll see you tomorrow. It just wasn't what it was in the beginning. And I felt it happening. I'm just happy we had a good producer. Like, we did so many records, my goodness.
Yeah, there's a making of Eternal Enemies up on YouTube. I'll link it, and at the end of it, it's pretty bleak and showcases that inner band tension and miscommunication.
My grandmother told me how to be happy. Said, Leon, my darling little grandson, if you want to be happy, don't think. Don't bump into any walls. If you stutter, don't talk. I listened to my grandmother, and look at me now. Couldn't be happier.
But we always got it together. We always wrote something good. It only affected us a little bit towards the end, I would say.
Well, it's actually quite a testament to you as a songwriter and your creative partnership with Frankie, primarily remaining strong until the very end. I think that's really something, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah. Once you know you have that within you, that never leaves. And that's what I always tell my fiance, because she sings. She's great. She does R&B, pop, she could really, really sing. And I try to instill in her that, like, yo, you can do it. Trust me, like, talent is the hardest part. Everybody works around the talent. If you have the talent, you got it. Like, that's it. That's the least to worry about. You know what I mean? Like, if Frank and I had the ideas and the talent, I'm not a shredder on the guitar. I don't know scales, but I know in my head what I want it to sound like in my hands, out my ears, and what you're going to hear. And that is a skill. I'm just thankful that we had that skill. We grew up together going to public school in New York, and all we wanted to do was music. So I think we paid very close attention to music and the craft and the art of making songs and the layers that go into songs. Some people just don't even understand or fathom to begin. How do I write a song? What do I do? Where I could sit here right now and turn around and jumble together half of a song, like nothing, just from doing it so many times. Like 100 songs or more we wrote. So, maybe like 70, 80 songs if it was like demos, the EP, and then like, 10, 11, 12 songs for 6 records.
Time gives legitimacy to its existence. Time is the only true unit of measure.
We can fuck around, we can play the games and no one say worse than this. Mercy gets much worse than this. We can tell them all that anything's a lie. We can fight the good fight, the ones I'm back tonight. I don't care if anybody ever loved me, and I don't care if everybody fucking hates me. Suppressed by the weight of the sun that shines. Your head is mine.
So in terms of songwriting and your connection with the guitar, once stepping away from Emmure, you mentioned not going to shows and stuff like that. Did you also have a period of time just away from your guitar?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't play that much. And then we did the Painless thing, which was like all of us that left, plus this dude Jacob that we were friends with from California. We wrote a few songs, and it was like some songy vibes, some like kind of slower jam, and then some heavy stuff. And the one song that I wrote most of that has the whammy in it, that's the one everybody loved. And it sounds like an Emmure song. And I'm like, of course, like I can't get away from that. So I like stayed away from the guitar and the shows, and then kind of creeped back. Like, all right, let's do this band thing. Like 2017, 18, a couple of years after. And then because we just didn't have that same drive, passion, and it wasn't like me and Frank in the front seat to drive it to make it what it was, right? It was like Jacob and Mike went and recorded all the guitars. I didn't even go to the studio, and it just was different. I didn't love it as much. It was cool. I loved all the people. I loved DL from the Acacia Strain, the guitar player. He produced it for us. So like he was the engineer for that stuff. So it was like fun. We had good hands involved in it, but it didn't do really so good. And that again was like a real wake up call.
Mayday.
got to be all in and really love it and all hands on to make something and make something good. It doesn't just really happen by accident. And that's kind of what that was, like yeah, I guess we all want to kind of write and we all still kind of want to do this and maybe we'll go on the tour. It takes all of it. I'm going to eat ramen noodles crunchy with peanut butter on it in the van. Let's go. That type of thing. And we just weren't there anymore. Everybody's trying to work. Everybody's trying to situate with their own lives. They still wanted to do the band. So it was tricky. And then I kind of stopped playing a little bit again at that point. And then in 2021, I wrote a bunch of stuff. I wrote 12, 13, pretty much songs. And again, the problem is, not the problem, but they just sound like Emmure. They sound like the first 4 records of Emmure. That's the vibe. That's all I really know how to do, especially if I'm by myself with no other influence. So this is what this sounds like. And I have that. So who knows what's going to happen with that? Or in a perfect world, I would love to collaborate and make something happen, and I can't speak for that ever going to happen. I don't want to ever promise or say anything like that, but that would be super sick for them, for myself, for the fans to be like, oh shit, like the old member and the new member, and it sounds like this, like, okay, yes, we're all on board. You know what I mean? The new fans, the old fans. So I can only see it being positive. If that were to be a thing, if we ever talk about that, that'd be great. If not, if they want to continue on, write a record, I really wish the best and hope that it keeps the band going strong, man. And Josh could really pull it out of the hat to get the roots of the band. Like when we talked, he's like, look, I'm not here to reinvent the band, dude. I'm rocking off what you did and I'm appreciative to be here. And he's a real cool dude like that. And I'm like, good, man. So like listen to those first 4 records, man. You play the stuff every night, so just vibe that, redo that. With different nuances.
Yes, that's sick. You and Josh have a relationship and there's that mutual respect. I've been a big fan of him from Tony through to Glass Cloud and now Emmure. Along with Felony, I definitely rate Hindsight as my favorite in the band's back catalog.
And Speaker of the Dead would round off the top 3.
Jesus Christ, what happened?
And if you're listening, Frankie and Joshua, Life Is Peachy 2025, Hindsight celebrates its 5th anniversary.
Finally understanding nothing.
Yeah, it's just front to back, a solid, amazing album that can just stay on repeat so easily.
Oh yeah, cool.
Speaking of, especially after feeling how you initially did once leaving the band, what's it like for you to witness the fan love, the respect and appreciation for what you do and have done as a songwriter?
Awesome.
Yeah, man, your contribution to the music, the scene, and the sound of Emmure.
Hindsight.
It was really about a year and a half ago. I'm just like, all right, this is cool, and reminiscing. That rivals the good feelings of, moving forward and being able to text with Frank and having everything great and seeing them and being excited to see him and watch them play live. These come hand in hand. But as far as the YouTube side of things, 100%, man. And I already know I've lived that life of the worst comments, people saying, I hope your van flips and you guys burn and get cancer and die. Jesus. My fiance's like, oh my God, how do you even, at first you want to respond to every comment and then you go, what are you doing that's so good?
Exactly.
Tell me, show me something where I go, word, your comment holds water because what you're doing is so amazing. And then that kind of humbled me all the way. So now seeing that it's just all positivity, it's all good things, it's people that really are just super excited and love that I'm doing it. It's very, very a warming feeling. I'm super happy. And I'm not doing it for any financial gain. I'm not doing it for anything more than just, it's fun to play these songs, to hear it through my amp. The guitar is a little louder than the album and just going through them again. And people request like the craziest songs that we just never played live. I'm like, this is the opportunity to do this, to play it again and be stoked about it. that was the beginning of me really healing. About a year ago when I made this YouTube. I was like, I love listening to songs. I love hearing Frank scream over it and playing it. So I was like, all right, I think I'm feeling better. A lot of people do a lot of the Emmure covers online and they're wrong. And I don't say that being mean. I get it. If you weren't here, you know what I mean? When it happened, it might be different. I'm the same. If I cover other songs, if I hear something, I go, oh, I finally heard that little nuance that I never noticed. Okay. I've seen some other covers where it's like way wrong. And now I'm like, yes. Let them watch this and go, oh my goodness. Josh even said that he learned 10 Signs You Should Leave from watching my video. And they started playing it live.
Right.
Not to say he can't play it. He's a whiz in the guitar. But there's this special nuance that I made, my brain, my hands, on the record, right? I mean, all that stuff is really cool, really exciting, really humbling. I'm just so thankful that 1,300 subscribers or whatever at this point are stoked. And anything that I do, even if the song only gets a few views on it or whatever, there's people that are so thankful and so stoked on it, and people that are like, I'm still trying to learn this, or thank you, now I can learn this, and you're a huge influence, and I've been listening to you since I was 12, and this and that, and it's all cyclical. Life is cyclical, music is cyclical, everything comes around.
All right, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much, as I always do. It's been about 1 year now since I've been doing these videos, so it's been an awesome ride so far, doing my favorite songs, doing my favorite riffs and stories, and anything else that I could put here for content. And it's the same thing for me, man. When I was a young kid, and I couldn't believe when I would like meet some of these people or get the chance to tell them how much they meant to me. And now it comes around, and it's interesting because you really feel it. You're like, yeah, this is great what I'm doing, because I know how that feels to give somebody that compliment of like, I learned all the songs you wrote. Like, I know how to play everything. This is great. So whoever is watching this or hears this that, you know, is trying to jam it or learn it, man, yeah, you could definitely learn a lot of nuances of the way I play the guitar, and see a lot of repetition of how certain things are done that you can't really tell until you see it. And I know that from learning other songs where you're like kind of all over the place, when it's like that guitar player actually plays it here. They just phrase differently right here. It's not like they do it here, then they go here, and they go here. So it's like, oh, that's actually different and easier than I thought. It's all how it comes out. So very excited, very thankful. Every 2 or 3 weeks or so, I'll just keep putting something out. Fun to have that to look back on, and people still discover it every day. There's always something, like a new comment or people requesting something and asking questions, and it's nice to respond. This is a day and age you could do that. You couldn't do that when I was a kid. It was just, you see these people in Metal Hammer magazine and you see them live. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Now you could reach out to somebody, and I love being able to answer them, and they're just like, oh, thank you, it's so cool. Really, really cool, really rewarding.
And I'll of course link your channel in the description for this episode, because as you mentioned, it's a really great experience to watch the playthroughs and notice all the nuance and subtleties that perhaps are a little overlooked or missed in the overall mix and madness of an album listening experience.
Yeah.
And since you already have covered a few tracks from Felony on your channel, I have to ask, if you look back specifically on the Felony era of your career, what songs are you proudest of in terms of yourself as a guitarist and songwriter, and why?
This is gonna sound so bad. I'm so bad with the names of them, especially when you don't think about it for so long. You gotta remember also, when we wrote the songs, every song when we demo them has a pseudo name. Like
Shinobi jump or something because we came from like a Shinobi video game, and Frank was like, "Do something with this." I was like, "Okay."
That's so awesome.
We'd have weird nicknames that those stuck for so long.
Yeah, and that's what you end up remembering, right?
Yeah, because then we'd record the album. Still don't have a song name yet. He'd do the vocals. Like, okay, this is coming together. Not that he was secretive about it, but maybe he just felt, unfortunately, that I didn't care. And it wasn't like that.
Player one.
I was in my own lane with writing the songs. I just never went that far on the limb. I just trusted him to it. Pretty much until we handed the albums in, I wouldn't know the song name. And then they'd write it on a set list and they'd put like a short version of it. So it wouldn't even be all the words of the song. So I'd look down and I'd see the one word and then I'll pick that song. So it's like, huh? Oh, dude. So that's just the truth of it, man. It's just what happened with so much. If it was just one record, yeah, 2 records, sure, you can keep it in your mind. But rotating so many sets.
Even as a listener, man, we can be like, oh yeah, track 3 is the sickest, but not know the name of the song.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I've told you about my condition.
Only every time I see ya.
R2 is a good song too because it's so fast, it hits so quick, it's a quick song. What else? The song Felony is a fun one. I think that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Here's a funny thing. So like a lot of people don't know, but like when you write songs, a lot of bands will write something off of something they heard. Like, so for instance, I was joking around, just doing a riff on the guitar, and I'm like, this sounds like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles song. Like dun 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 dun. And then I was like, dun 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 dun. So that's how that started. That's how Felony became the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles riff. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 and then you kind of just build around it.
This might be 2 years ago, but this pain is my forever. Living was just once good enough. I wanted my revenge.
The more you know.
Yeah.
In terms of opening an album, Sunday Bacon and Casper are back-to-back hard hitters, not messing around.
I'm probably the
Sunday Bacon, another good one. They play that one live still. I remember when we were writing Sunday Bacon, and I'm probably that.
Yes, I thought you met Telly and turned me into Casper.
Telly, yeah. It seems silly, but like I told you, to no purpose. I just was so into the riffs, into the song, and then I'd forget. Like, I know the song name, but 2015 happened, and I was like, delete, you know what I mean? So it's got to come back. But we were writing, and I remember that's one thing that Bryan was definitely good with. When you do a song with a whammy riff that's like, here's the whammy riff, here's the whammy riff, or like the riff versus like being the riff. So like, dun 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 is like, that is the riff versus dun da dun dun da dun dun da. They're a little different, but they're the same. It's just a nuance thing. Think about how you want it to like, oh, dun da dun dun da. Like that is like the part of the riff. I think they're all really good. Those are all good. I mean, look, they're all good songs.
Yeah, dude.
Wow. You're amazing, dude.
What's the one that's like, dun, 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 dun. What is that one? It's like, dun, dun.
The philosophy of time travel.
Yeah, doing stuff like that in the albums I thought were super cool. Whether we were like, yo, let's just put it on the tape and just keep it dark and let that go like during a set, or just stuff like that I thought was really, really, really neat. You know, some people would look at it very objectively like, oh, that's a stupid song or whatever. Some of the other songs like Sleeping Princess, We Were Just Kids, all these songs that we wrote that were like, all right, let's do something that's, you know, the lighter track, and then we just never revisited them again. But people love these songs. So it would take a very special set. It would take a very special type of tour for the band, I think, to play a set of those songs. But people would be about it if they knew it was going to happen. I really think so.
Sometimes to love
someone. You gotta be a stranger.
I mean, I really love Bars in Astoria. That's the first one I did, my first video. I really thought that's a good one because we played that live for years, man. That has such a vibe, such a bouncy, heavy vibe where it is very nu metal-y and Korn and groovy, and then it flips to a two-step, and then it flips back, and then it gets floaty, and then it gets real serious, and then breaks apart.
Yeah, it's such a dynamic song.
I don't know, like, it just got so many elements. That's probably one of my favorites.
I want to quickly talk a little bit more about retrospect because I really do feel this concept also applies to those listening to Emmure today in 2024. Earlier, when talking about the polarizing effect of Felony, if we're being honest, this is something that has followed the band from the very beginning, leading to the music essentially being written off by a lot of the public back in the day.
Yeah.
But if you scan through the more recent YouTube comments over the various music videos, live performances on your very own YouTube channel, there's definitely a change happening, an appreciation for its time and place and how it holds up today. And specifically the comments on your playthrough videos seem to love Felony with that 15 years of retrospect. Where does it sit for you now within your back catalogue of work and life experience?
I like it. I'm excited because I feel like there are songs where we really riff. There's like a lot of riffing going on. And again, thanks to the new chapter of Ryan's ideas a little bit and just kind of me out on a limb with Frank, just writing. There's a lot of like riffy riffs, like got Children of Cybertron, which is just like da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then you have R2 Deep Throat, not just open, 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 right? That album kind of was the middle of that peach pit of like, yeah, we did a lot of simple stuff, but it was definitely different in so many ways. And when I listen to the songs, when I do the YouTubes of it, it definitely brings up good vibes. It definitely makes me happy that we did that. And again, I really wouldn't change anything. That is the whole masterpiece that came together. And just like you said, it's really cool to see. It's taken a little bit of a turn where people are so stoked on it because of how different it is, right? Where before it was more of a, oh, this is whack, or this is not the Emmure that I love, that I know, because they changed, right? But now you look back at all the catalog and go, that's special for what it is. Just like you were saying a while ago. I never thought it would be like that. I thought people were kind of like, all right, I like a few of the songs, or some people like, I didn't like that album. But now it seems that people are really vibing it and stoked that I'm doing the songs and they're playing the songs live still. So I'm like, man, that's a good thing. It's good feelings.
Will anyone else attempt to fill his shoes?
I can't believe you didn't see this coming.
And I do think that record and Speaker of the Dead are, to me, my favorite stuff to jam, to play to, because of how heavy and hard-hitting Speaker is. And how technically inclined compared to some of the other stuff we've written Felony is, and how Felony was written and recorded. It was just way different process. So yeah, looking back in retrospect, it's good feelings, good vibes. I'm just glad people enjoy it. After this, I'm probably going to go and put on a couple of the other songs and try to figure out which next song I want to do for sure.
Well, I have to say, every time I see a new upload from you and it's a playthrough from Felony, I am extra excited and click the video straight away.
Yeah.
Jesse, thank you so much for your time and energy and looking back on 15 years of Felony.
Absolutely. I'm glad we were able to do this, and hopefully, people that check it out get some more insight and can really see inside the world of Emmure and Felony and the whole picture and how I feel about it and how you feel about it. So,
So, until the next Felony playthrough.
all right, I appreciate you much, my man.
Somebody help me, please. Somebody help me, please. I swear to God, I'll pull this trigger. Swear to God, I'll pull this trigger. Somebody help me, please. Somebody help me, please. I swear to God, I'll pull this trigger. Swear to God, I'll pull this trigger.
I would have waited an eternity for this. It's over, Bryan.
There we have it, episode 33 of the Life Is Peachy podcast, my chat with Emmure's OG axeman, the one and only Jesse Ketive. I still can't believe of all the places, for his first interview since leaving the band in 2015, he wound up here with us today. I strive to be all about that, bringing you, the lips, the most unique explorations and celebrations of the music and artists we all love so much. So I hope you're enjoying season 4 so far. Next up, the who, the what, the where, and why is always revealed first up over on Patreon, where lit patrons find out early guest and album reveals exclusively. And on top of that, additional episode content is always waiting for you under the Michael Bolton tier at patreon.com/Life Is Peachy Podcast. Spread the love and show support any way you can, even if it's sharing this episode with a friend.
What? Did we just become best friends? Yep.
A huge thank you to the Lip Virtual Tip Jar patrons and to Darren, Spinning the CD Discman, and Fly of Change, Majika, Raimi, and Vaginator, always rocking the Michael Bolton tier.
We can work it out.
If you haven't already, follow the link in the episode's description and subscribe to my second podcast channel, The Mixtape Sessions, a more stripped back Q&A driven podcast with a new track dropping this month and already featuring interviews with the likes of ex-Machine Head drummer Dave McLean and members of Sunk Lodo, Crazy Town, Vision of Disorder, Head PE, Fly of Change, and Spine Shank. And if you're interested in what I do with Life Is Peachy Productions, music videos and music documentaries, then head over to the Life Is Peachy Instagram to follow what I'm up to with both that side of things and, of course, the podcast. I want to once again wish everyone a continued and amazing 2024. Let's keep on connecting over music and nostalgic moments and just have fun hanging out. Until we do that, next, as always,
See you at the party, Richter.
bye-bye.
You know, I can eat a peach for hours.
This episode was written, edited, and produced by myself, recorded from the comfort of my own home.
DIY style.
With each guest calling in from wherever they happen to be around the world at that particular time. The Life Is Peachy theme song is an original tune for this podcast written by Tim Richardson.
The Life Is Peachy podcast is not monetized. All music rights and credits go to its rightful owners.
Further details can be found in this episode's description. All artwork is original and illustrated for the Life Is Peachy podcast by Chris Lisa Liefting.